record so that we can share this with any chapters or staff members that weren't able to join us. But Katie and I just wanted to welcome each of you to today's quick webinar on Unite Your Way. We're really excited for this launch happening rather quickly. It's right around the corner. If we haven't met you yet, or if you're new to the chapter network, Katie's on the left and I'm Diana, I'm on the right. You should be able to see this on your screens. Just an overview today of what to expect with Unite Your Way, our new DIY fundraising platform. And if at any time you have any questions at all, please feel free to raise your hand. It's a really small group today, and so we can definitely accommodate some of that conversation, and we'd love to hear from you. So let me just make sure I can move my screen. Just as an overview, you know, we were talking a lot on our past few webinars about how the DIY initiative has come to fruition. And so here at NHF, we developed this cross-team collaboration between the advancement team as well as chapter services. And it's all of these faces that you see on the screen that have worked behind the scenes to hopefully create a really meaningful and useful, you know, revenue diversification option for your chapter. So if at any time you ever have any questions, any one of us here on the screen would be so happy to help you. And so for today, really what we wanted to do is gather everyone on the call today just so that we can quickly talk about where we're headed with Unite Your Way and really what to expect in the next few days and weeks. It's a really busy time, and if you were able to read the email that I sent out, I believe it was late last week, on kind of the timeline that we're working through, and you're going to hear a little bit more about that on the next coming slides. But we really want to work in concert with the NHF launch for Unite Your Way, which is still scheduled for the week of June 10th. And so we really wanted to make sure that all of our chapters can back into this launch so that if any potential fundraiser went to the Unite Your Way site once it was live and active, that they also have the option to go ahead and select a local chapter to support. But before we dive into that, Katie and I really want to thank each of you for completing that opt-in survey. We are so excited that you wanted to join this really exciting time. We've worked really hard with Team DIY behind the scenes to create this, and now we're really looking forward to working with each of you as you roll this out at your respective communities and at your chapters. So we really appreciate the fact that you took the time to opt in, and just know that we're really thrilled that we get to partner with your chapter on this new initiative. So as an overview of this site, if you remember, once I guess we'll call them potential participant, a supporter, or champion, we kind of use them interchangeably, logs into the Unite Your Way site, they'll have the opportunity to select whether or not they want to fundraise on behalf of NHF and their local chapters. So just as you see it right here is exactly how we hope for the launch to go. We're working hard behind the scenes to make sure, well, Katie is, I can't take credit for it. It's like our in-house website builder. You know, she's working behind the scenes to kind of help create what that user experience will look like. And we're going to dive into that later on in the presentation today. But this is pretty much what you're going to be seeing you know, once that site goes live, and we're really excited that it's about to come to fruition. So speaking of the surveys that we received, quite a number of chapters opted in for this year. Katie and I have decided to kind of split them up with who we currently work with and what might be a good fit. And so here's how the breakdown is happening. So on the screen right now, you'll see the chapters that Katie will be helping walk through you know, the initial launch and subsequent events. And then on the right, you'll see the chapters that I'll be working with as well. What's important to note is that there were some chapters that opted in for 2020. And so what's great about this is that this is really our official kickoff. We're launching the site with you guys in mind, and it's definitely something that we're working hard to make sure it's a seamless transition as we launch it, but there will definitely be kinks and maybe a couple of speed bumps along the way. And, you know, as we work through this, if at any time you have any questions or feel that you need more clarification or more support, please let one of us know. It doesn't necessarily have to be the person that's, you know, quote unquote, you know, heading this up with your chapter, but either one of us would be happy to answer questions because we know it's going to be, it's new for all of us. And so on today's call, we wanted, again, to welcome all of you to this really exciting launch. When we say we're excited, I don't think Katie and I can quite let you know in words how thrilling this is. I mean, it's really the time for this to happen, and the time is right. And we really know that all of you chapters that have signed up and opted in for this calendar year, you have really great events on the horizons and ideas, and we just can't wait to work with you. And in speaking about how this is the official launch year, we're really counting on you as chapters to help us make this great. We are anticipating, questions you might have, and so we're trying to formulate really great tools and resources to hopefully make this a really meaningful experience for both you and your community, supporters and champions. But we're going to need your feedback along the way. So as some tools and resources are launched and provided to you, please let us know, because it's something that we're going to have to be, let us know if you have ideas, is what I mean, because as we build this, we're going to continuously come up with things that we're going to need feedback on. And even if we don't request it, please provide it, because as we build Unite Your Way and the resources that will be available to you, we really need your feedback. So please be thinking about that. Keep in mind that it's going to be a new experience for all of us, NHF staff, even chapter services that are launching this on behalf of chapters in concert with you. There's going to be a lot of learning curves, but we're really dedicated and excited to navigate that with you together. So that's just something I wanted to make sure we threw out there. But DIY has so much potential. And I know that Katie and I know that that's something that you believe in as well, or else you wouldn't have opted in. And so many of you are already, taking advantage of your volunteer programs, or building one up, or hoping to build one that will be a great feeder program really for identifying new streams of revenue, such as Unite Your Way. And it's really a great time to back this into all of the initiatives that you each have at your respective chapters. We've got a really busy timeline the next couple of weeks, and so I just quickly wanted to address some of these dates and kind of, throw these your way. You might have already seen on the initial email last week that we have some webinars planned, and so we'll get to those in a moment. But the week of June 10th, the goal is for all of the sites to be live. I know Katie and I have an internal deadline of June 7th to make sure that they're up running and looking great. So on the week of June 10th, NHF is going to be sending their first initial email and launching their own social media posts announcing that Unite Your Way exists. And so by that time, we're hoping that your sites are live, and they will be. I mean, that's something that is already moving along quite nicely. And once NHF announces that, we are assuming at that same point in time, your local constituents that see those posts and emails, if they're on the email list, they're going to probably take a peek at that website, and they'll be able to select your chapter from a drop-down list should they decide to create a fundraiser. So that's really exciting. Moving into later that week, actually on Wednesday, we're going to be having a coaching webinar on the toolkit and resources that I'm developing for Unite Your Way. Again, kind of going back into what we've provided in the past for Giving Tuesday, as well as the Red Tie campaign. The toolkit's going to look somewhat similar, but probably include more elements to help you coach others. So keep that in mind. So that's going to be happening on Wednesday, June 12th. If you can't make it, no worries. We're going to make sure to record that webinar, and we'll be able to share it afterwards with your staff members. So if you can't make it, that's all right, but please try to make it so that way you can provide some timely feedback on the webinar after you see it. And hopefully I can make some of those inclusions once you let me know what those are. Moving into that following Monday, we will be having another coaching webinar, this time on audiences for recruitment and donor drive training. So Katie, having come over from the WALK program into chapter services, her wheelhouse is really strong when it comes to donor drive and that back end building of it, but as well as, she's really invested in that user experience. So she's going to be working with our chapters on this webinar to make sure that you're all good in everything donor drive, which shouldn't be too cumbersome, knowing that all of you, it has been a requirement to be a Unite Walk participating chapter. So also that week, on June 17th through the 28th, we will be starting to host one-on-one meetings with each chapter to really help you identify who some prospects would be for this program if you haven't already, and to help you really learn the tools and how to maximize your own potential as a chapter in utilizing this program. We know that you've already probably talked to each of us, or at least submitted some response on the opt-in form of potential events or volunteers you want to target to participate in Unite Your Way. But these one-on-one calls will really help you build this from everything from prospect identification to maybe even scripting how those meetings can look and how to approach it, as well as taking a look at your site and really learning how to use that if you need the support. Speaking of, and I forgot to mention this earlier, I've received a couple of emails logos. So if you haven't already sent that in, as Katie goes in to customize each of your sites, please make sure that you send your chapter logo as soon as possible so we can make sure that that's up to date and ready for the week of June 10th, which ideally is actually next week. So please submit your chapter logo so we can build your personalized site. Moving along though, after we host these one-on-one meetings to really kind of get the ball rolling and develop a plan for your specific Unite Your Way platform at your own chapter, we're going to be moving into monthly coaching calls with each chapter to kind of see how that's going. There is a chance, that for some of you, this might take off right away, but there's also a chance that some of you may experience a little bit of a delay, perhaps in your volunteers signing up, or maybe it's just not a good time for them being the summer and they're just really busy. But I think it'll be a nice staggered type of, selection where we're going to see chapters that are really busy with it and then chapters that will be busy with it later. So I think the key here is going to be really learning from one another's experiences, and also making sure that we're sharing resources and ideas and suggestions as everything comes up. And then after that, we're hoping to move into a group call quarterly, where each participating chapter, we can kind of get together. We'd love for you guys to really drive that conversation of how you're feeling about the program, any questions you might have, successes, barriers to success, whatever that may be. I think that would be a really great time for each of you to kind of rely on one another, and as well as share with NHF how we can improve, or how we can be of support, or to even celebrate, which we hope is really more the case, the great success that each of you are seeing at your chapters. Katie, did I leave anything off of the timeline?
No, I think you covered it all.
Awesome. So yeah, it's kind of an aggressive timeline, and we're aware of that, but what I think the hard work will be is just making sure we can get with each of you to come up with a really great plan for when your one-on-one meetings will be with each of us, so that we can go ahead and get started with your planning process. So with that being said, I want to go ahead and make sure that I can turn this over to Katie, and she's going to be talking a little bit about the exciting stuff, which is what to expect on the site.
Great. Thank you, Diana. So we've been working hard behind the scenes, really actually trying to set up the Unite Your Way instance, similar to the Walk program, where once your site is created, it's going to be chock full of really helpful scheduled and triggered notifications, autoresponders, and messaging that will allow you guys to focus on utilizing the recruitment messages that are going to be included in your toolkits, and working with us to identify audiences that we want to promote Unite Your Way to. So that we can really kind of focus on getting people interested in hosting a campaign on our behalf. And then once they're in there, really building things out for the chapter perspective to make it easy on you guys, and so that you guys know that there's some custom communications coming from your local chapter, going to your participants, inviting them and encouraging them to take specific actions. So similar to Walk, we have set up a number of scheduled notifications as people register for Unite Your Way. And that's going to be segmented based on things they have or have not done, which is really helpful. And new to Donor Drive this year, you can actually see how many were sent, the percentage open, and the click-throughs, so that we can get a sense of which messaging is reaching the largest audiences. And for example, day 3 you'll see on your screen is focused on people who have not made a self-donation. Because we segment those audiences out, if they have already made a self-donation, they wouldn't receive that message. So it can really help us craft those messages, making it unique to either what they have or haven't done and what we're trying to coach them up on. So we currently have messages built out to cover the first, I believe, 28 days. Before we do go live on Friday, I am planning on adding just a couple more of those just to make this a little bit more robust, but just trying to not get paralyzed by perfection and make sure that these are up and running for you guys in alignment with the NHF launch. These you can go in and turn them off. You can go in and localize them and edit them further if you're interested. And you can also add additional messages that are specific to your chapter. So the sky's the limit with these messages. So just kind of think about what you're trying to get somebody to do and who your audience is, and we can create some other custom messages. Next slide, please. So these are our triggered notifications, and this is where we spent a lot of our time. We thought it was really important to really utilize the text feature. So as people registered, if they opt in to receive text messages, any of those triggered notifications for those milestones that have that little green chat box next to it, they would receive a text message congratulating them on that milestone. Anywhere where you see the red circle, that's the badges. So those are badges that will show up on their pages. And then the really nice piece that you guys are really going to love is that yellow little telephone looking, or that bell, is notifying admin. So you'll notice we built in a lot of notify admin for these. That way you guys are automatically going to be notified when people hit certain milestones. So you'll get that email, you'll be able to give that person a quick call and congratulate them on what they've achieved, and then help make some recommendations to help get them to that next level. So we wanted to be a little bit heavier here with those triggered notifications, knowing that we want to really celebrate every step that they take on the process, but also knowing that the text notifications are becoming increasingly popular. And people are really enjoying communicating that way. So we're really excited to have built this out. Once you actually get into your donor drive sites and you take a peek at those triggered notifications, you'll see there's a ton of them. So again, you can localize those, turn those off, you can make changes to them. But we definitely recommend keeping the ones that we did build out, just because the more we can kind of communicate with our folks, I think the more we can really encourage them to be true champions for our cause and really maximize their potential. Next slide, please. The other exciting thing that's new this year is that there is going to be a way, both on the front end user experience as well as the back end, to toggle between English and Spanish on the Unite Your Way pages. When we worked with Donor Drive and created this brand and the imagery and all of that, we really wanted Unite Your Way to be very inclusive from the beginning. So you're going to notice that in both the marketing materials that are being created for this, but also in the fact that participants can, click the button and choose to have their Unite Your Way experience in Spanish. So we're really, really excited about the investment that we made in that. And we really do think that it's going to help this go a long way. Next slide. All right. You can tell I made this slide because I gave Diana a crown. But she is currently and almost finished with creating a chapter-facing toolkit, which, as she mentioned earlier, is going to have the recruitment messages that we can utilize to localize and send either through your current databases to the audiences that we identify. It's going to have that series of recruitment messages along with sample scripts and postcards and other marketing materials, and really FAQs about DIY to help clarify what it is, what it isn't, and how we can use them in your local communities to help you guys be successful with it. So we're trying to cover all of our bases, but that's definitely an area of think about what types of resources would be helpful for you all, but also what types of resources would be helpful for your community members as we kind of continue to build out and identify where we want to focus our time. So she will be revealing that toolkit next week on that webinar, but we're really excited about it. It should help make Unite Your Way be very turnkey for you guys at the chapter level.
Katie, I just want to add one more thing to that.
Yeah.
So the crown is so ridiculous. I'm distracted. But the chapter-facing toolkit obviously will be for our staff, that are managing this. My hope is that we can create a toolkit for you also to distribute to your community members once they do sign up. So that way there are some materials that will help supplement their experience with it, but it will give them some really great tangible ways to maximize their own fundraising potential, utilizing the tools provided by you, the chapter. So in many ways, this is really more of like a train the trainer, but it's kind of like, an assembly line. So it's like, Katie and I, she did a great job creating this, but if you notice, we're really referring to each other as coaches. And I think it's so powerful to look at it that way, because our job right now is to really help coach you guys on to maximize your fundraising potential as you roll this out. But then beyond that, we really want you to coach your volunteers and community champions on how to maximize their fundraising. So it's really going to be this great, kind of effect as it works its way down, where we really hope that with our tools, it's going to empower you. And then once you're comfortable and your chapter community members are ready to rock with this, you can empower them and you can provide them with some tools as well. So you'll have all of these resources, of course, from NHF to assist and things that you can personalize at the chapter level, but we're really hoping to also give you another toolkit that you can hand to your community member.
Awesome, thank you. Yes, and some other things that are kind of in the works too is getting some information right on the main page about event ideas and helping people see all the different ways that they can unite their way, just to kind of help spark their thought process about how they can turn their own everyday interests and passions into ways they can be champions for our cause. So we are hoping to kind of build out helping people make that connection to the daily things in their lives that could be really special for the bleeding disorders community. You will be hearing from Diana and I in the next upcoming week or so, just to set up that initial coaching call. And that's really going to be utilized to map out, where is the chapter currently at? What's a realistic timeline for identifying some of the audiences we want to start reaching out to? And when do we want to start sort of that recruitment phase of DIY? So we're excited to work individually with you guys to come up with a plan that makes sense for where your chapter is. And the marketing and communications team has been really great. They're helping us create a Unite Your Way postcard that we will be distributing to our participating chapters, just so that you have a takeaway for when you're at health fairs or other special events, something that you can give to your community members to let them know that this is an option. They're also working on a sample newsletter article announcing Unite Your Way, and encouraging people to take that action, as well as some sample social media posts, which are fantastic, but a lot of them are image-based too, encouraging action, which I'm really excited about. So those are going to all be, rolling up into your toolkit, but are currently being created from NHF to help service the chapter. So we're really excited about those things. And of course, taking the feedback that we get from you in regards to both chapter and the user experience, and creating additional resources as we continue to move through this process. All right, next. All right, so let's open it up for questions, comments, or anything that you guys have to share. And you can use, I think, the chat box or the Q&A box.
Yep, Q&A is open, and you can also raise your hand if you like. We can certainly take some questions if you guys have any. But also don't forget, we will have opportunities next week. I know that once you see the toolkit, it'll probably spur up some different questions. So we also have that opportunity then. Not seeing anything, Kate.
Oh, I see one. Bob asked, tell us how this integrates with the walk. And so interestingly enough, you will have a separate login for Donor Drive for Unite Your Way. They typically, or not typically, currently, the walk will have its own Donor Drive and Unite Your Way. So you'll have separate logins for each of them. So you're going to be starting with a clean slate. So it's going to be an empty database for you guys until we start recruiting folks and having them sign up, and we can start communicating with them. So the way that my hope is that when I work with a chapter, I want to look at your current database and identify which audiences would be good candidates for Unite Your Way. So those are probably people who aren't participating in the WAC program, but maybe perhaps lapsed participants, or people who come to community education events but don't get involved in the walk. So that's where we're going to have some pretty specific audiences. And then, I think pepper in some just general, social media announcements and things in your newsletters and things like that, so the entire community can know. Because what we don't want to do is just go back to our walkers and say, hey, do you want to do this too? We want to look at people that Unite Your Way will spark their interest in becoming a champion, that maybe the walk isn't for them, or the other events that you're hosting throughout the year. Does that answer your question, Bob?
I think it does. I think everyone's muted. I will answer for Bob. Bob, you good?
Well, I might be muted. Am I muted?
No, we hear you.
We can hear you.
Oh, cool. I am muted. So
Hi, Bob.
it's just starting. It really is just starting to learn about how to do it, because the only thing I guess I would is that the walk captains will be one place, but other people will be there. I have another question though too. Do you see us possibly driving, like creating a DIY event? So for example, an online raffle or an online auction, and then inviting other people to participate somewhat too, is a possibility? Is that a good tool?
So this is more of a peer-to-peer type of functionality. So it wouldn't necessarily, we'd have to get really creative to do like an online auction. Raffle would be a little bit easier because it would maybe just be a straight up donation to be entered into the raffle. This is more, and I definitely see chapters using this to host some of the other events that you have at the chapter level. Because it does have a lot of capabilities. It's just the online auction piece is a little, is not something that's integrated into the system. It's more of
we have that. So it could be a way to kind of message and spread the word about other tools and opportunities we have.
Absolutely.
So for example, our fundraising events now, they just capture those people that come. If we can figure out a word that says, you might not be interested in coming, but do you want to win a trip to XYZ?
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and you can just set up the site so they make their contribution there. So there's a lot of flexibility with it, which is really nice.
Are we tying in another, another processing service, or are we going to use the same one as Donor Drive?
It's the same one, so it's through authorize.net.
Okay, cool. Okay, so
which is really, it's kind of making, I don't want to say getting this all said and done has been a dream, but the authorize.net piece has been really helpful, because when we go to copy the template and attach it to your local chapter, we can attach it to your authorize.net, but also for the receiving purposes, all of your local chapter information will be in there as well.
Perfect. And the authorize.net, will we have would you like to cover the processing fees?
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. Okay.
The other thing, and not to go rogue, that we built in or we added for the registration questions too, is we started asking questions. We added, similar to the walk one, whether or not people were interested in volunteering in other ways, but also asking who they're, making it optional for them to indicate who their employer is, so we can start collecting some of that information as well and utilizing that in our activities.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions?
Yeah, one came through the private chat, and it is, what should a chapter be doing now to prepare for the launch and prior to receiving the toolkit? So I would say, there's a couple of ways that we can go about this. There are a few things that come to mind that are very high level, and then there are things that chapters can be doing that are really kind of more granular, but can have a really large impact in the long term. So I guess I'll just start with the pretty open-ended stuff that you can do between now and then, which is sending your logo as soon as you can. And then, going into also the toolkit again, or what are some resources that you would anticipate that you need? Now, for the most part, I feel like I kind of have a good handle on what the chapters appreciate and would love to see. And with this first rendition of the toolkit, we're going to be trying to include as much as we can, but we're going to keep revising it. So hopefully you'll be given updated toolkits as time goes on, as we build it out further. So be thinking of things that would be helpful to you, helpful to your community, because don't forget, I'm hoping to launch also a toolkit for you to send out when someone is registered, having that ability to touch base with them and say, hi, I saw that you registered an event on Unite Your Way. We're really excited. Here are some resources that can help you. So whether they're like quick tips and tricks, a welcome letter, whatever that is, or even scripts that you might need, please email me and let me know, because I'd be happy to start crafting those to make this really a nice, seamless, easy, program for you to roll out. We know that all of you do so much and you're so busy, and we're so excited that you even want to undertake something like this. And we really just want it to be something that's easy to handle, honestly, is how Katie and I wanted this to be. We want it to be user-friendly for you. We want it to be user-friendly for your constituents. So be thinking of that. The other thing I would suggest is listening to your community. Many of you are at the height of your walk season. Either you've just had them or you're looking forward to having them this weekend and next weekend. As you meet people and as you greet people at your events, and you're seeing some teams that are identifying themselves as high fundraisers and really engaged participants, or someone who did something really unique to raise money for their walk team, be on the lookout for that and start opening that conversation with them if you're comfortable about the ability to, create something under Unite Your Way. Another thing that you could do pretty broadly is start thinking about planting those volunteers on your board to help you do your initial launch of Unite Your Way. So let's say some board members have a birthday coming up. See if they'd be willing to actually take a stab at using this site to celebrate their birthdays and possibly receive donations. That way, we can also learn from our nearest and dearest volunteers, such as your board, how well the site works, what's their initial feedback, and how easy is it for them to use that. That information to us is really going to be so helpful. So those are just a couple of things I wanted to mention that could be really useful at this time. But I think that the next couple of weeks will go by pretty fast, but we're hoping that with the coaching calls and the resources and tools we have available, that you'll pretty much be set. But for sure, send over those logos and be thinking about who would be good prospects for this.
I would also
Any other questions? Oh, go ahead, Katie. Sorry.
I was just going to add too, spending a little bit of time with your database between now and then, just making sure that it has, information in there, garbage in, garbage out, so we can really start deciding who those target audiences are, but being able to pull their information so we can create some communications targeted towards those recruitment pieces. So just thinking about that database management piece and making sure that our constituents are in there so we can reach out to the folks that are going to be ripe and ready to go.
Awesome. Well, I don't believe any other questions have come through. Thank you, Michael. I don't see any other questions that came through other than how Katie and I are so awesome, which we're not. We just love what we do, and we love development to a fault. And we're just really excited behind the scenes that this is finally happening. Thank you, Bob. So if you guys have any questions between now and next week, please feel free to email us. We're here for you, and we want you to know that. We work so closely with so many of you chapters. And truly, we want this to work for you guys, and we know the potential that's there. So please reach out to us and let us know if there's something you need. This is like one of those couple of times that we're going to beg you to tell us what you're looking for, so that this is going to be an easy transition to this other platform, and we want to be able to provide it. So don't be shy. I can't promise you that it's going to all be included in the toolkit next week, but I can certainly try to make sure that in subsequent versions, we include things that are going to be, of use to you and make this easy. So with that being said, I guess we'll go ahead and close, but we want to thank you for your time, and we will talk to all of you soon.
Bye.
Thank you, guys.
Bye. Take care, everyone. Thanks
Have
so
a great
much.
week.